Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to this very special session of Getty Talks. Today is the World Day of Social Justice, and I have a very special guest today, who is Miss Kulsum Mustafa. There's no need for me to introduce her, but then again, as it's a formality that I have to take over. So I will introduce her. She has been a senior journalist with many national and international newspapers, and then she was also a former media consultant with UNICEF. She is a motivational speaker, and she has been conferred with several state and national awards for gender sensitive writing. So, ma'am, welcome to our show, and thank you for joining in the disruptive education movement started by Dr. Sunita Gandhi. And the topic that ma'am is going to speak on is that journalism is a guardian of social justice. So it's more than a question, than a statement, and that's what she's going to answer. So over to you, ma'am.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much for the lovely introduction. And a very warm good evening to all you lovely people hearing us from all corners of the world. From this city of culture, cuisine, and language, Lucknow, I say adab to all of you. And today is the day of social justice. And I would like to celebrate it and be a part of it as someone who can add meaning to it. And as the topic of the day has already been introduced to you, it is journalism, a guardian of uh, social justice. Well, at the beginning, I would say that when I look at the question mark that has been put there, I kind of feel a little hesitant, a little awkward, because I firmly believe after 4 decades of being a journalist that journalism is social justice. Journalists are programmed to work towards bringing the society on an even fairer platform. So I personally feel that journalists are social activists. They are always working towards creating a society, a background, and a fair playing field. So, as a proud journalist, I think I have walked 37 years with my pen and tried to do stories which can impact society. Well, my journey began in 1984 when I joined Northern India Patrika, moved to Times of India, and later on as a principal correspondent I moved to Indian Express. I have worked with a lot of international media, like assisted them in Uttar Pradesh, which is my state from which I'm speaking now. Um, I personally feel that social justice is something which a journalist is kind of told to ensure. As a journalist, we are kind of always trying to see that we are able to mirror the real feelings of society. And in fact, I think journalism, which is also called literature in a hurry, is actually a mirror of society. Whatever you see happening there, they mirror that. But the responsibility of a journalist does not end only there. They have to ensure that these things which they focus on, which impact society, are in a way conveyed to the people, and there is a solution also. So, what we call in our language a story is actually something which is a real thing happening. A journalist focuses on it and tries through his or her pen to ensure that this injustice is removed. I have worked as a political journalist, but my stint with UNICEF as the first media consultant of Uttar Pradesh helped me to do a lot of stories which really affected, conveyed through the mind and the heart. A journalist who works only through his mind may not be able to produce stuff which will have a long shelf life. It is a journalist who works with his heart and mind both. who will impact society. Now, as I'm giving you a very, glowing picture of my profession, I feel that it is not enough to just be talking about it. I must, give you samples, examples of how I can say that journalism is actually the true social justice. When I say, I have been very fortunate, like I told you earlier, to have done a kind of stories which impact society directly. Here we must also remember that journalism is a profession where we are doing a lot of social justice without even knowing where our words are going. We don't see the people we impact. We don't meet them. We don't get any kind of, um, deserve any blessings of them directly. But indirectly, we are all the time impacting them, making their life easier. Now, here I would like to add that I again feel very fortunate because journalism was my passion. Writing was my passion. And when I joined journalism, it became, my profession. So, people who are, I'm fortunate with God's grace, I have chosen a profession which has been my passion. So I never get tired of writing. I never get tired of looking for people whom I can write about, who can make an impact whose life we can change. A journalist is a change maker. He or she kind of, puts the camera lens on a person whose life is being impacted and whose life can be changed by his words. And when we talk about and one more aspect I would like to add, that we, like I told you, I put in almost 37 years in this field of journalism. So we were the people. Our era of journalists were those who were groomed by our, seniors, by our peers. They were the one who taught us how to hold the pen, what to write, and what not to write. So I am again very lucky that I have been able to pass this on to the future generation and train journalists. So I'm a guest speaker, I'm a visiting faculty in a lot of journalism institute. And I'm so happy because first of all, I'm meeting people who will, after 10 years, be known faces who will be doing what we have been doing today. And secondly, and most importantly, I would be teaching them things which I learned and which I found were good in my profession. For instance, as I was telling you earlier, I have been a political journalist. I worked on the desk in Times of India. Then I moved to journalism, which is a job of a reporter. And then I took on another hat. I wore another hat by becoming a media educator. And what I chose to deliver to these people were not common stories, but something which is still not very, very common in our journalism. This is called development journalism. Development journalism, as the word suggests, is something by which we are able to show what is hindering the development, what can help development, and how the society can move forward after removing these roadblocks. So, as I said earlier, the work of a journalist is to socially improve things because we are part of the mass com and we deal with the masses. And it is the masses, or what I call Lakshman's common man, that we have to think about. And as a journalist, you don't know who will be reading your story, how they will be impacted, what you can do to make, but your facts, whatever you write have to be thoroughly, thoroughly researched because this would go a long way. And as I told you, development journalism is a journalism. The stories have a longer shelf life. In fact, they will live on beyond the writer. They will live on beyond. When I was called for this talk, I kind of looked back at whatever I've written earlier, there were certain stories I found, but I was so surprised that the kind of stories which were there, which I could find by after I Googled, were stories which had a longer shelf life. They have lived on. I did not find that whatever I wrote 20 years back has kind of lost its value or lost its impact. So here I have some number of stories, and I must tell you that these development stories were some of the development stories which I did during the time I was with UNICEF were brought out in a booklet. They are available, and they are the kind of stories which are called stories of hope, stories of light, stories of development. So the first story that I've done, and I'm very proud of, is a story on Smile Pinky. Now, some of you may remember, others may not. This was a Smile Pinky story which won a documentary because it talked about children with cleft lips. Now, I did a thorough research. This is about a girl, an 8-year-old girl coming from a remote village of Varanasi in Uttar Pradesh who had cleft lips, and she was operated upon by Dr. Subodh Singh of Varanasi, a doctor who has been working on cleft for a long time. And this girl's story, her name is Pinky, was the story which went to win a Oscar. This documentary won an Oscar, and I was privileged to be able to speak to the doctor, to speak to this Pinky, and kind of see everything that all her emotions, how she's feeling. I mean, it was a beautiful experience, and writing this story was a delight. And I remember that I met Dr. Subodh Singh just before they were leaving for these Oscar awards. And I said, I'm confident that you will win the award. And I said, as a journalist who will be in Lucknow that time, and you will be there receiving the award, I would like to know what you would like to say when it wins this award, and I'm sure it will win the Oscar. And he said, I will say to the world, this is not for one Pinky, but all the Pinkies in the world who are suffering from this, you know, kind of problem. Because people who have cleft find that their face is so disfigured that they are not able to face the world. So they hide behind, they do not come in the forefront. Now, this is a story. If you want to read it, you can Google with Kulsum Mustafa, Smile Pinky, and you'll find the story there. Another story, because uh, 2020 will be remembered for coronavirus, COVID 19. And I feel that COVID 19 has impacted a lot of people. So, this story, a lot of cleanliness should be there as part of a hygiene. I did this story on manual scavengers in one of the Muradabad village in Uttar Pradesh. It again was a story which was very good, and I enjoyed doing it because I met a kind of different people. I met these manual scavengers who had toilets built in their house during that program. Another story I would like to talk about is water scarcity. This was another village somewhere on the last village of Uttar Pradesh before Madhya Pradesh borders. And this was about water scarcity. And the water scarcity was so huge that because of it, there were so many bachelors in that village. Now you will ask, bachelors, water scarcity, because families were not ready to marry their daughters to, boys coming from that area because they had to face a lot of difficulties. I also met a lot of children whose mother had run away from these difficulties because they could not face it any longer. So life was very difficult. Water scarcity was a very scary thing that was happening there. Another story that I would like to talk about was when I got the fellowship of Center for Science and Environment, and I did this complete research stories on open mines of Sonbhadra. The Sonbhadra story showed a lot of human character, a lot of human misery, because the open field, there was so much of soil, there was dust, there was kind of, heat. And these laborers who were working there, their children were there, and they used to swallow a lot of dust. And how difficult it was to work in such areas. So a story was done on that. Another thing was about Nari Adalats. This was an NGO which held open courts to sort the problems faced by women. Now, we did a lot of stories on institutional deliveries and the fact that childbirth, takes place in the home, generally ends up in a lot of complication for the mother and increases the infant mortality rate to a very high level. So, this story again was a story which impacted life. And then, of course, dispelling myths about HIV, AIDS, all these kinds of things. When I think about, then I truly believe that this is social justice. This is journalism, which is a trying, aiming at society. And I feel that, the next line of journalists must be taught to use their pen with a lot of sensitivity. I wrote a lot on gender sensitivity. In fact, one of my story on the Goat Trust won Ladli Award, and this was in collaboration with the United Nations Population Control Fund. So this was a story which got me an award, which was kind of motivated me and motivated others who will see that, stories done in the interest of society will lead you to a lot of uh, blessings and a lot of name and fame which your pen will get you. So I personally feel that when we say that journalism is a way of social justice, we are not being wrong. Now, this is a side of the story which will impact life, which will change life. These are change maker stories. And, when we talk about change makers, as I said earlier, they will bring a change in the lives of people. They will focus on things which will kind of make others realize that there is lot to life. We can make a difference. One single person can make a difference also in the life of others. So, it's been a journey of nearly 4 decades. As I said, I walked tall with my pen, and I'm very happy that I did so. And like I said earlier, it has been a passion which has turned into a profession. So, at no time of the day, no time I feel, kind of tired or I don't want to do journalism. In fact, doing a story makes me vibrant and energetic, and I feel like I felt 37 years back when I held my pen to do my first story. So,
I was really keenly listening to you, ma'am, and I want to ask you, like, you have been into this, journalism for the past more than like 37 years. So, how has it changed in, connection with society? The writings of the journalists, are they becoming more bolder and more, honest in their writing, or how has that changed with even technology coming in?
look, I belong to an era where print journalism was supreme. I mean, not that electronic journalism did not start, it started a little later.
Yeah.
But I personally feel the responsibility of the written word is much, much more than what goes in the air. So I do feel, in fact, I tell my students and I tell whenever I'm talking to a section of audience, I tell them to just close your eyes for a second and just close your eyes and imagine a world without newspaper. without media, without TV? And do you feel comfortable in that world? So, like, there has been a flood of writing. There has been a mainstream writing. I've been a mainstream journalist who turned to development journalism because I found that it impacted lives more directly, and I enjoyed doing what I was doing. But I personally feel that, the responsibility of holding your pen strongly, of being fearless, of doing a journalism which will kind of lead to responsible social changes, is something that every journalist should know when they walk into this profession.
Mm.
Because if they don't, then things will not. But again, I despite the fact that there are always times when people are speaking against media, there is a section which is called media, which is talking only about the people, uh, the people in power. But I
Yeah.
feel true journalism is about the have nots, and it's not about the people who have everything. So, journalism of my era, I I like to communicate to my students of mass comm so that they also realize the responsibility they have taken on. Journalism is not all glamour. It's not all fun. It's not all kind of easy going. It's not always that you are going to go to five-star hotels to attend press conferences and being celebrities. It is all about hard work. And please remember, when the world goes to sleep, when your party is over, we are the ones who are awake, and we are the ones who are working on it. So the responsibility should be felt in all generations. Only then we can have responsible journalism. But reflecting whatever is happening in society is the first job of a journalist. And like I said, a journalism is like a mirror. It's something which it shows what society is going to. And if you do not like the kind of changes, then you must get up. You as a person, you as part of society, must step forward and try to make the changes that should will make society more comfortable, a more fairer place to live in, and something that leads to a wholesome development. That's what I personally feel.
So, ma'am, coming to social justice, how would you define it? What is social justice? People who are not aware of this when it comes to social justice. Um, what is social justice in a few words, if you can let us know?
Well, social justice, according to me, is a society where people are getting their due. It is a fairer world. People
Mm.
are not being discriminated against. The voice of the voiceless is there. People are being heard. There is no gender bias. There are people who are, there is lesser of discrimination, and a kind of a society where you have a fair playing field. That is what social justice should be, because it's part of being comfortable in the society that you live in. Like I was talking about manual scavengers, the way if they have a toilet in their own house, people who have been working as manual scavengers, I mean,
Yeah.
they showed me with pride a toilet in their house. And this I'm not talking about today. I'm talking about, I think, 20, 15 years back when this scheme started. So there used to be a presentation, president award for this, and the pradhan was given the responsibility of building a toilet in each house. So social change will come only when um, we try to bring a picture where, like I said, development journalism is a journalism which is really needed by democracy, because journalism is a fourth pillar of democracy. Then development journalism will lead to a more social justice, because it will show you places where you need to change, where you need to alter, where you need to work harder. So all that is part of development journalism. I'm not saying the mainstream journalism has lesser value, but at the same time, this kind of journalism will live on because it will impact lives.
Yeah. So, coming to one of my last questions, how much of resistance did you have to face when you were picking up these stories, you know?
Well, before I mean, kind of started chasing these stories, I was first of all, I come from minority. Within the minority, I am also a woman. So there was and at my time when I joined journalism, there were not many girls in the field or in journalism as such. At least from my community, from my I mean, the minority that I saw. But I think education, and especially my mother and my elder sister, had given me the kind of upbringing which I felt was really needed to go out and do this, because journalism was not a field which was easily chosen by people, by girls. Like, you became a teacher, you became a doctor, you became an engineer. But to think of you becoming a journalist was not the easy thing there. Then I was very lucky that I was married to a journalist, so he understood the kind of passion that a journalist has. He was one of the best crime reporter and later political reporter. I mean, a political journalist. So he understood. So I was lucky. Like I said, with God's grace, I was very lucky that I kind of found lesser roadblocks in my way. Now, as far as these stories are concerned, I think the fun of doing a story is kind of facing a little few challenges that come in your way. So first of all, you have to identify something which will bring in change. Secondly, you have to ensure that you're going to a place where all this can be done. And thirdly, you have to say, writing a political story may not take you time, because you just have to, I mean, again, with due respect to all political reporters, and I'm one too, I feel that whatever a politician is speaking, you can put that. But doing a story on development, doing a story which will bring a social change is not easy, because you have to sit and write the intro. You have to think like, you have to sell a story. Development stories like which will bring in a social change, you have to really work on them. So I think the challenge is not in the field, the challenge is not in getting that story, the challenge is how you write it. Because if you write it in a very boring manner, like for instance, I'll give you an example here. I was doing a session with the students of the Aligarh Muslim University in Aligarh, and when I began, it was a 3-day workshops that we were doing on development journalism. Uh, a, a girl stood up and told me the first day only. She said, "I have a question to ask you. And you are talking about journalism and writing well and all. I would like to tell you that I did a story on some rickshaw puller, I mean, some organization doing English speaking for some children of these rickshaw pullers. And I sent this story to a paper, some write up, and that story was not taken. But she did another story on, I think Javed Akhtar visiting the AMU, and that story was taken because there was glamour, there was something attached to it. So I told her, "Would you like me to answer this question just now, or would you like to wait till I finish my 3 days workshop?" And she said, "Ma'am, I'll wait." So when I finished my workshop and I told them how to write a story, because writing a development story should be, I use this word, it should be sexy and sellable. If it's not sexy, it will not sell. So I told her, "Would you like me to?" She said, "No, I'll wait for third day." The third day, I was looking for the student, but I didn't find, I mean, I couldn't identify her. So I said, "Somebody had asked me a question on the first day of the workshop. I would like that person to, ask me again." And this girl got up. And I said, "You want me to answer?" She said, "No. Ma'am, your workshop gave me why my story was rejected. Because I did not make it sexy, I did not make it saleable. Just writing about a class of English taking place for the rickshaw pullers will do you no good. You have to begin the way. So, training journalists to write development story is a very, far-reaching exercise. and it should be done by people who have honed their skill themselves, and
Yeah.
they know how to bring. So writing a story which will impact life, and as we are talking about social justice, we have to think about how to start the story. The intro is the most difficult thing to do. Whereas in a political story, it is not. So and so politician said this today. Now the intro is done. But when I'm writing about, say, child rights, I have to start with a certain data. I have to say India is a country where there are maximum child brides, 1.7 million, if I'm not wrong. And Uttar Pradesh is one of the place which has the largest number of child brides in the world. So you have to begin with some data which will give it a kind of body, and then you begin the story. So teaching development journalism itself is very satisfying. It kind of makes you give them a lot of, exercise, and you ensure that these students are going to carry forward the flag of doing good work in journalism. They will use their pen in a way that will lead to social justice. So, I mean, if you feel, I mean, if you go through it, I mean, I'm not the only one. I've given you examples of my story because I can speak about what I've done. There are many, many of us, many journalists who are writing stories who are impacting life. And we must appreciate that, because, appreciation will go a long way in uh, making these people realize that what they are doing is worthy of society. They have made a change. So, like I said before, uh, you are not able to kind of gauge the importance of people, the importance of stories, but a kind of review by people, the way they celebrate your stories is what makes these stories very, and you can find them everywhere. I mean, you may think that doing a story on, when I did a story on this uh, some story on Dilip Kumar, you may think, oh, this is glamour, this is not development. No, it is not, because the kind of things that he spoke would lead towards this kind of thing. It depends on what you make him talk, what you make him say, which will kind of impact society and lead to social justice. I did a story on Bismillah Khan and I came back crying because he said many things which was so so nice and would make a change. The passion with which he pursued his this that Shehnai playing showed that young people must be committed to what they do, and if you do it, you will reach a height which will kind of improve the standards of society. And we are talking about social justice. So, social justice is also making sure that the caliber of an individual reaches its maximum. Because if it reaches its maximum, he will be contributing to society in a positive manner.
Yeah. Okay, ma'am. So, last question that I would like to put to you is it that, whenever you have approached for a story like this, um, the part of the society, I mean, the person you're going to write about, or those community that you're going to write about, have you ever faced resistance from them that I do not want to talk about myself, or I don't want it to be, in papers or like that?
Yeah, many times people don't want their names to be there, but then you make them into a character where you are giving them a kind of, writing about them without giving their name. And the other thing is that, like I said earlier, the kind of stories I've done, I have written about people who may not be reading my story. They may not be knowing English. But at the same time, these people would not even know that somebody wrote a story because of which their life has changed.
I was
So,
coming to
you
that. Yes.
understand the kind of gratitude does not come directly to you. It comes through the way that, somebody, suppose I wrote that, like for institutional deliveries. What happened? I met a lady who lost her child. In childbirth, she lost her baby. Now, you cannot imagine the trauma of such mothers who lose their children, a child after 9 months of carrying them. So that is how you talk about institutional deliveries, because there are lesser deaths. There are infant mortality rate is very low.
Yeah.
So, what that lady, she became an instrument for me to help society strengthen its institutional deliveries. She would not even know, and I'm sure she did not even read my story, but
Yeah.
it was read by people who could bring that change. So the important thing is that it kind of it should reach where people can. When I did a story on child rights, the Uttar Pradesh government was questioned. The government machinery was questioned why there is so much. The number of child brides is not coming down. So that girl whom I interviewed a lot of girls, child brides, and many of them became widows without even being, normally married, because then they had been married to the man when they were very young, and they did not even go there, and that person may have died of accident or anything. So I met the human misery I brought forth through these people. It was communicated to the administration, to the people who could take action. Now, a journalist is a person who mirrors things. He or she cannot make changes directly, but they can reach to people who can make this difference. So I personally feel that today when I think about it, I feel that many of the people whom I've written about may not even know that something has been done for them through this person, or maybe through another writer like me. But we are happy that in the hearts of hearts we know that we have done something which has helped change societies. I mean, I've a lot of stories like HIV/AIDS. HIV/AIDS, there were so many myths that we destroyed. As journalists, we did this. We made sure that no, HIV/AIDS does not, you cannot contact it through this and all that. No, so a lot of things we tried to do. And I am today only speaking about positive kind of journalism. I don't want to get into the rut where people are talking about what journalists are doing. And I mean, every profession has its black sheep. And I'm sorry that our profession has many, but then it is for society to understand whether to, like I said, if a person does an award at my age may not make a difference. But an award given to me for a story that I have done will make the younger generation, the new generation of journalists, feel good that if they do good work, they will be rewarded for it. So it is again the work of a society, the work of individuals living in society to ensure that they appreciate, they kind of react to things which are being done for them. And like I said, uh, changes will come if these kind of stories are more there. But unfortunately, like I said in the beginning, we are more interested in masala writing and we are more interested in the political part of it. We are not, like I said, to write a development story which will definitely bring social justice, requires a lot of hard work, and it is very difficult to find space for such stories in a newspaper. But I'm happy that a lot of changes has come. But when we started writing, there was not, I mean, these kind of stories were called light stories. They did not have kind of the kind of excitement which a political story would have. But I beg to disagree. I feel that these are the stories which are in the longer run going to help us a lot. And we have seen the way people have written about migrant laborers, what emotions they created in the minds of the society and the community towards these people. So a lot of changes came because of those stories. It's
Yes.
it's not that somebody did something good, but if you're doing something good and it is not reported, then it is not going to impact.
Yeah.
So, whatever happened during the time when these laborers were going did a lot of good to that section of society, or at least it made people who are in a better position realize that what these people are going through. So, that is what journalism to me is, at least at this age and after so many years. I personally feel that writing a story, you have to leave behind a sparkle, you have to leave behind a hope. You have to leave behind some light. You cannot do stories which are. I'm not. A journalist should know, especially a journalist should know for whom they are writing.
Yes.
I'm not. If I'm holding a party in my house, that party. is not, if I write about a party that I held in my house, it will not be of use to you. But if I write about a party where I have used, uh, you know, um, uh, this kind of crockery, which is disposable crockery, where
Mm,
I have tried to think about environment. I have made sure that people who come to my house in a party kind of plant a tree,
mm.
plant a sapling. Then my party becomes a public party. Then I can write about it. But I can't write about the fact that I held a party where 100 people came and I served dinner and I did this and all. So again, it is what we call in our journalism language the peg of the story. This is where you hang your ideas. Peg, I'm not talking about the uh,
Ah,
Patiala peg. I'm talking about the peg which holds clothes. So a story should be holding, it should stand on its own. And if it's able to, then it will last. Then it will go on and increase a shelf life, and it will always be available for you. So whatever I've written, if I you Google with Kulsum Mustafa, you'll find all my stories. And I'm happy that I have been a part of social justice. I've taken a profession which has made me change lives, impact life, and I'm very happy at this age when I evaluate, when I think about what I've done. I feel blessed and I'm happy that God guided me and chose me to be part of this
yeah,
exercise.
one question coming from our audience. I think that would be
Right.
the last one. How to get rid of fake news through true journalism?
Sorry, how to
How
get
to
rid
get
of?
rid of fake news through
Okay.
true journalism?
Now, at this time when you are bombarded with mediums like Facebook, WhatsApp, it's not so easy. But I think if people start supporting, I mean, we all have a sixth sense and we do know what is fake news. So I will not be able to guide you how to be able to evaluate and differentiate between what is true news and fake news. But I think if you know which channel you are choosing, you will know where fake news will come from. So the sensibility should be heightened, the sensibility of your understanding media, because media is like a two-edged weapon. It can use it in a wrong manner. It can kind of lead people to misbelieve and a lot of things. So I think the way of judging should be left to the person who is there. I mean, there is no, I mean, as far as I'm concerned, I don't think there is a way by which you can differentiate by fake news, what is fake news and what is right and true news. You just have to use your sensibilities, you have to use your sixth sense, and you have to evaluate it on the scales of whether it will hurt society or help society. So then I think the difference can be found out.
Thank you so much, ma'am, for taking out time and being here. And I think you are the best person that I could think of to celebrate Day of Social Justice. Thank you once again, and I hope to see you in near future again with some other topic, interesting one to have a discussion
Thank
on.
you very much. Thank you. And I thank the audience and I thank people who've joined from every corner to just listen to us.
Yes.
And as a journalist, I feel very privileged to have been here and to be able to communicate my feelings because it is journalists who are generally taking interviews. They never get a chance to talk much. So thank you very much and hope to be part of your sessions later. Thank you so
Thank
much for inviting.
you. Good night, ma'am.
Good night.